Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. You caught me in the middle of a good book. The MLA Handbook, 8th edition. Hi, my name is Nathan Lewis, and I'm an instructional assistant in the Writing Center. Today, we're going to take an incredible journey of formatting your essay and citing your sources using in-text citations and the Works Cited page. Welcome to the MLA Workshop. Alright, so let's talk about MLA style. So, what is MLA style?
I don't know.
Well, let's take a look. MLA style is the set of principles for formatting and citing sources for papers in the liberal arts and humanities. Today we're going to talk about two aspects of MLA style. First, the format style, or the visual presentation, and next will be the citation style, all the in-text citations and the works cited list. Alright, so let's talk about some of the basics with the format. The font is Times New Roman. Your font size will be 12. The line spacing is doubled, and you'll have margins at 1 inch on all sides of the paper. And at the beginning of every paragraph, you're going to indent ½ an inch, and you can do that very easily by pressing Tab. It's so easy! Alright, so here's the front page, the way that the front page will look whenever you are working on your paper. In the top left-hand corner, you see you will have your name. Underneath that, the professor's name, the course under that, and then the date. And in MLA format, we do day, month, and year. Below that, centered, is the title of the paper, and you see this is the beginning of the body of the text, so indenting the first paragraph ½ an inch. You're also going to insert page numbers in the top right-hand corner of the page, and right before that, you'll insert your last name. Alright, let's take a quick look at the Works Cited page. So this is the final page of your essay. Centered at the top of this page, you will write Works Cited, and you will list all the sources that you use in your paper. The indentation being used here is known as hanging. The second line and any subsequent lines will be indented ½ an inch, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Alright, let's take a look at in-text citations. So what are in-text citations?
I don't know.
Well, in-text citations are citations in your text. Let's take a look. Make sure to include in-text citations. The typical in-text citation consists of parentheses with the last name of the author and the page number. In this case, we have a quote, and after the quote, we include parentheses, last name of the author, page number, in the parentheses, and the period goes on the outside of the in-text citation. So even though the quote may have ended here, we want to put the period on the outside of that. Whenever using an idea or a quote that is not your own, it must be cited in the text of the essay. So anytime you use information from a source, whether quoted or paraphrased, you must cite it. That way you are giving credit where credit is due. Why do I have to give credit where credit is due? Get on the ground! If you don't include in-text citations when using information from a source, you could be accused of plagiarism, which could lead to a 0 for the paper, a 0 for the course, suspension, expulsion, loss of respect from friends, colleagues, loved ones, embarrassment, humiliation, loss of future career and education opportunities, copyright infringement lawsuits, and other legal consequences, loss of opportunity to be a critical writer and thinker. In-text citations lead readers to where the information came from originally, just like Reese's Pieces were used to lead an extraterrestrial into Elliot's house in the 1982 critically acclaimed Steven Spielberg classic, E.T. Alright, whether you're using a direct quotation or a paraphrase, you need to include an in-text citation. So we've already seen the way it looks with the quote, and it's the exact same for paraphrasing. So even when you're rewording the information from the source, you have to include the parentheses with the last name and page number. Parentheses and signal phrase. So, like we mentioned before, you can place the citation at the end of the sentence using parentheses. That's the typical standard. But you can also place the citation within the sentence using a signal phrase. For example here, according to Jones, students often had difficulty using MLA style, especially when it was their first time. So since we mentioned Jones here at the beginning in our writing, we don't have to include it at the end in our parentheses. We only have to include the page number. Whenever you're using a quotation that's longer than 4 lines, you want to use block format. Block format it could be a little confusing, but everything in the quote will be indented 1/2 inch, and you remove the quotation marks. So the 1/2 inch indent lets the reader know that everything here is coming from a source word for word. Another interesting thing about the block quote is the period goes before the in-text citation, which is the opposite of what I just told you. Typically, I suggest to students avoid the block quotes if you can. You don't want to rely too heavily on the wording of your source. So see if you can integrate it in your own way, rephrasing it, or use a smaller quote. Yeah. Here are some examples of in-text citations. When you have one author, we just do the last name and page number. When you have 2 authors, you do both last names with an and in between, and the page number follows. When you have 3 or more authors, you do the first author's last name and write et al. Et al is an abbreviation for et alia, which is Latin for and others. So you can sound very sophisticated. That's the reason why we do this. Ooh, very sophisticated. Lexington et al. We say Walker et al. To let the reader know there are other authors involved, and we include the page number there. When you have no author, you use a shortened version of the title. When citing a website, which usually has no page numbers, you just include the last name of the author. No page number required. And lastly, we come to the indirect source, which is a little confusing. The idea here is, let's say Smith wrote a book, and in Smith's book, he uses a quote from Lacan. Well, we want to give credit to both authors, so we first use a signal phrase to give credit to the author who said the quote. And then we give credit to the author who wrote the book. And the way we do that is by putting quoted in Smith, quoted in the last name of that author. And you'll see quoted is abbreviated with a period here, and just like all the other citations, we include our page number at the end. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the works cited page. So what is a works cited page?
I don't know.
Well, let's take a look. The works cited page is the last page of your essay and provides a list of all sources referenced in the body of your paper. All in-text citations must have an entry on the works cited page. Why should all in-text citations have an entry on the works cited page? The works cited page uses double spacing like everything else in the essay. All of the sources use hanging indentation, which can be accomplished pretty easily in Microsoft Word by highlighting your source and pressing Ctrl-T. It's so easy! Also, the sources are listed in alphabetical order according to whatever comes first. So let's take a look at 3 of the most common sources and how to properly cite them on the works cited page: books, articles from online databases, and articles from websites. Alright, let's start off with the book. So the book starts off with the last name and first name of the author. You'll see that there's a comma in between and a period at the end. Then we write out the title of the book and notice that it's in italics. We place a period there. And then we include the publisher with a comma and the year of publication. For example, let's say that you wanted to cite Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Let's take a look at how to do that. Well, first we want to do the author's last name, Ishiguro, with a comma, and then his first name, Kazuo. Next, we want the title of the book in italics, with a period at the end. We follow that with the publisher. To find the publisher, just look on the title page in any book. In this case, it's Faber and Faber, with a comma after that. And to find the year of publication for a book, flip to the copyright page. If there are multiple years, just choose the one that is most recent. Next, we'll take a look at the article from an online database. This is arguably one of the most commonly used sources throughout your college career. So let's take a look. It's a last name and first name of the author. We have the title of the article in quotes. The title of the journal is italicized. We include the volume number, issue number, year of publication, and page range of entry. Lastly, we want to show what database it came from, so we include the title of the database in italics, and the URL, the link to the article. To find journal articles, you can access the FSW library page at fsw.edu/library. From here, you can click on Articles and Databases and log in using your student ID number and the last four of your Social Security. Here you'll have a selection of many different subjects to choose from, and so since we're writing about Never Let Me Go, let's see if we could find something in literature. Okay, so here's an article by Anne Whitehead. Let's go ahead and get this started with the last name, comma, first name of the author. Next is the title of the article, Writing with Care. And since we have quotes within quotes in our title, we will change them to single quotation marks. Next is going to be the title of the journal in italics, which is Contemporary Literature, with a comma. After that will be the volume number, VOL period 52, with a comma. Then is the issue number, 1, with a comma. After that, we would include the year of publication, which we can find right here, 2011. And lastly, we will include our page range of entry. After that, we want to show what database we got this from. Right now we're using JSTOR, so we will italicize the title JSTOR. And at the very end, we include the link. After all of that's done, we just want to make sure that it's double spaced. And we can press Control T to do our hanging indent. And lastly, let's take a look at the article from a website. We start off with the last name and first name of the author, just like all the others. Next, we include the article title in quotes, followed by the title of the website in italics, the publisher, the date of publication, and then the URL. For an article from a website, I found an article on the New Yorker that we can use. Let's start off with, again, the last name and first name of the author. And we'll make sure it's in alphabetical order. Next, we include the title of the article, Something About Kathy. After that, we want the title of the website in italics, the New Yorker. And then we want to include the publisher. To find the publisher of a website, you can scroll to the very bottom of the page, look for the copyright information, and right after the copyright year, you should see the publisher. Next is the date of publication. But remember, dates in MLA are always presented day, month, and year. We do a comma there. And lastly, we include the URL and the period at the end. And let's make sure to do our hanging indent by highlighting the source and pressing Control T. And that's it. In the case of websites without authors, skip the author step and start the entry at the article title. Here's a good example of that. We have verb tenses, the title of the article on the OWL Purdue website. OWL Purdue is actually a really good website, a good resource for anything dealing with MLA, APA, Chicago, any citations. So keep that in mind. That's a good place to go if you're ever having any questions. So the article title goes in the place where the author's name would go, since there is no author, and that's that. If either the publisher or the date of publication cannot be determined, skip that step and move on to the next item. Alright, that's it for now. Thank you for attending this virtual workshop. If you have any questions about MLA or anything writing related, feel free to contact the Writing Center at wconline@fsw.edu. Thanks again, and have a great day.